Welcome to our channel. This story was posted by u/Dublix in the subreddit Glitch in the Matrix. Let's get into it now. Back in the summer of 2011, I was 19 and had relocated my living situation for a few weeks while I was in between apartments. Due to my relocation, I was pretty far from my work and I'd have to drive about an hour south on the Highway 45. At the time I worked in Spring, Texas, and could get away with a lot of stuff because we were too short-staffed and I was one of the more experienced on our night crew. On my first shift having to drive to work from this new area, I ended up getting a bit turned around and lost. I was driving on what I thought had been the highway, but after a bend it suddenly transitioned into a single-lane road and then further down transitioned to just a dirt road. Ever since it stopped being a highway, there were no areas to turn off. I left my place at around 7 p.m. to arrive at work by 8 p.m. for my shift. This happened around the midway point of the distance, so even though I didn't check the time when it happened, it'd be a fair estimate to say the sudden change in environment happened at approximately 7:30 p.m. Thinking this was really strange, as I'd been up and down 45 a million times and never saw something like this, I figured I would just drive until I reached a rest stop or something to check my location on GPS and turn around at. It got to be a little uneasy when I went a full 20 minutes without a single spot to stop at or turn into, and without seeing a single other car. I saw a bridge coming up and thought, okay, surely there'll be somewhere to turn around up wherever this bridge leads. Then I saw it. You are now entering Nova Scotia. At this point, I was already going to be super late for work no matter what and figured I'd just send my boss a text and all would be fine. No signal. Figuring, what the hell, I'm gonna get in trouble anyway, may as well check out this place for a few minutes and see where I ended up. It was very unsettling. The town looked like it had to have been abandoned for decades. Buildings all around looking to be falling apart and in terrible disrepair, not a single building had a light on and there were no cars or people anywhere in sight. The roads were a mix of some dirt roads and some normal roads in varying states of disrepair. Hell, I didn't even see animals anywhere as I drove through. I could tell as I drove that this town was essentially an island. Every direction seemed to have a beach and a bridge that connected it to land, at least from what I was able to see as I drove around a higher elevated area. After about a half-hour driving around, unable to find any signs of life, I managed to find my way back to the bridge I came in on, and got the hell out of there. When I got to work about 2 hours late, my boss called me back into his office to have a chat. I'd been working there since I was 16 and have never been so much as a single minute late, so he was willing to hear me out. I told him the honest truth of what happened, and he seemed increasingly concerned as my story went on. He and another coworker looked on a map out of curiosity, since they'd never known of any abandoned towns in the area, and found some place called Atascocita and assumed I'd misread the sign. But when they opened the Google Street View, Atascocita was nothing like the town I'd seen. The only thing they had in common was a sort of similar name and one bridge that connected it from across a lake, but the town I was in was surrounded by water and had bridges connecting it on each end. I'm only in contact with one coworker who was at work that day, and he's convinced I somehow got a bustling old-style town like Atascocita, somehow confused with a long-abandoned ghost town, even though they had nothing in common. Just because we couldn't find any Nova Scotia on the map. 2 years after when I went back to live in Spring for a little while, I did try finding Nova Scotia again, this time with the intent of filming while there to prove it existed, but alas, no matter how much I retraced my steps I was never able to find that strange empty path to the bridge again. As a little end note, I'm typically not super comfortable sharing this story with many people because for obvious reasons lots of people would probably think I'm crazy because I'm adamant I was in a town that no one can seemingly find any evidence of ever having existed. From the few people who I have told over the years, I've gotten answers like slipping somewhere in time, that I entered some kind of spirit world or something, that I slipped into an alternate reality, and the most common was that I fell asleep on the highway, though, while that last one certainly sounds the most grounded on the surface, for those who have driven on 45, I'd have 100% died if I had fallen asleep at the wheel in the late evening/early night on that highway. Accidents are common there even among totally alert drivers. I'm not sure what to make of it all. As unsettling as the event itself was, the retracing my steps later and not being able to find any trace of it was even more so. Honestly, if I ever ended up back there somehow someday, I'd film the whole thing. Enjoyed this story? Give us a thumbs up, and if you don't want to miss any other stories, then push that subscribe button.